Hi! In this session, we are going to look at the history of ICT development in Korea. Images and data of this session is from a book titled History of Information and Communication Network Development, published by the Korean government in 2021. This book can be viewed at the National Library of Korea and other major local governments' libraries. And the book can also be downloaded for free through the website of the Korean Intelligence and Information Society Promotion Agency, www.nia.or.kr. The initial point to turn Korea into an information and communication powerhouse was the Electronics Industry Promotion Basic Plan, reported by the Ministry of Commerce and Industry in 1969. The government, which had promoted high growth with an emphasis on the heavy chemical industry and the defense industry, shifted its policy to fostering the electronics industry. In 1967, the government invited Dr. Kim Won-hee, a professor of electronic engineering at Columbia University, to Korea. 8 months later, Dr. Kim submitted a research report for electronic industry promotion to the government. It was the first blueprint for the future of the electronics industry of Korea. Korea's economy grew rapidly through 4 5-year economic development plans from the 1960s to the 1970s. But the communication infrastructure to support this growth was very poor. In order to meet the rapidly increasing demand for communications, securing national backbone network were essential conditions for Korea. Hence, in the 4th 5-year economic development plan, between 1977 and 1981, the government implemented policies such as, first, transitioning from labor-intensive industries to technology-intensive industries. Second, localizing major electronic components. Third, establishing independent research and development. Fourth, introducing world-class technology. Since then, the electronics industry has become a major policy task of Korea. A set of supportive policies have been introduced to allow capital introduction when technology is introduced from top-tier foreign companies for the production of semiconductors and computer products. The government also relaxed permit requirements and exempted tariff for facility materials for semiconductor manufacturing. Around the time, the shift in national policy focus to the electronics industry led to the training of large-scale professional manpower, laying the foundation for the rapid development of the information and communication industry since the 1980s. The 1980s was a time when mass expansion and the modernization of Korean communication facilities began. Enormous financial resources were invested in the communication sector. Throughout the 1980s, Korea invested more than half of its sales in the telecommunications sector in expanding and modernizing telecommunication facilities, which was equivalent to the 1 to 2 points of the country's gross domestic product. Considering that the scale of investment in the telecommunications sector in developed countries, such as the US and UK and Japan, was approximately 0.5% of gross domestic product, the scale of investment in Korea was truly enormous. However, despite the government's generosity and the unprecedented promise to completely open the telecommunication market, no country entered the Korean market. At the time, there were severe government regulations on wireless communications due to the confrontation with North Korea and security issues. Yet at the same time, with the hosting of an international sports event, such as the 1986 Asian Games and the 1988 Seoul Olympics, Korea's mobile communication services demand began to rise. Accordingly, communication security regulations were gradually lifted ahead of those international events. Socially, around this time, private automobiles became widespread, and the demand for car phones that allowed calls on the go increased significantly. In these times, the era of Korea's first-generation mobile communication finally began. Later on, in 1994, Internet was provided to the public in Korea. With the advent of Korea Telecom's CoreNet, any ordinary individuals could use the Internet. But Korea was not an early adopter of Internet by a global standard. The delay in the development of Korea's mobile communication sector is again caused by Korea's special situation of division of North and South Korea. From the beginning of the first-generation mobile communications, advanced countries such as the United States and Europe were negative about providing their own technologies to Korea. It's because they thought if wireless base station equipment was supplied to Korea, the technology would be used by North Korea for military purposes. But the 1990s were the time that advanced countries competitively established and promoted plans to build high-speed information and communication networks to secure leadership in the 21st century information society. Korea also was aware of the importance of information and communication technologies. The 1990s were also the time that Korea went through rapid changes in the international order, including pressure of globalization, market liberalization, and the Asian financial crisis. Facing these changes and challenges, ICT was considered to be the tool that Korea can make a new breakthrough. Hence, the government promoted pan-national informatization. Slogans such as, "Although we were late in industrialization, we'll be ahead of the curve in informatization," and "Let's make Korea the country that uses computers best in the world," was shared across the country. Ever since, the digital infrastructure in Korea was set at an outstanding speed. It was possible in part because most of Korea's population lives in high-density urban areas. And nearly half of Korean households live in large apartment complexes, allowing high-speed internet services to increase rapidly within a short period of time. In particular, since more than 90% of residential areas are located within a 4-kilometer radius of a telecommunication office, there are no distance limitations associated with establishing a subscriber network, thereby increasing the penetration rate. As the internet became an everyday infrastructure, in 2005, the transaction volume of internet shopping malls exceeded 10 trillion won per year for the first time in history. Also, the number of internet shopping malls reached almost 4,000, catching up with offline distribution channels. Fast forward, in order to respond to social changes caused by the COVID-19 and overcome the economic crisis, Korea needed large-scale investments in the digital sector. Hence, the government announced the Korean New Deal Comprehensive Plan, which is comprised of Digital New Deal and Green New Deal. According to the OECD report published in 2020, Korea provides the fastest and best quality internet in the world, ranking first in the optical internet access ratio. And Korea is also the first in terms of the ratio of wired internet subscribers over 100 megabytes. And it is also the first country in the average download speed of wired internet. The joint research with the OECD and Korea tells that broadband was the driving force behind Korea's overcoming the Asian financial crisis in the late 1990s and the global financial crisis in the late 2000s. In addition, the driving force behind Korea's outstanding performance overcoming the COVID-19 crisis is its competitiveness in broadband and 5G mobile communications. If 5G served as a catalyst for mobile communication technology to be applied to industrial sector, 6G is expected to provide an opportunity for mobile communication technology to permeate society as a whole. Although the concept of 6G has not reached a global agreement. However, as 6G technology and services go beyond industry and become deeply entrenched in society as a whole, it is expected that various convergence services based on artificial intelligence will be realized. This is it for this session. Thank you.